What up, boys? It's Gaz, and welcome to the Warframe video. So, we chillin' today. Had a couple good discussion videos over the last couple days here. And yeah, I just want to go over my suggestions for puncture damage, hopefully getting a rework in the near future. I know we briefly talked about how there was supposed to be a Warframe revised update similar to the one we got last year. Some people thought it was just a Railjack revised. No, they did actually say they're going to do a Warframe revised. Change of the status chance, or not status chance, status procs and all that sometime this year. So hoping that's still in the cards. So we'll go over puncture damage today, and I think there's actually a pretty easy solution to making this work. So before we get over it, make sure you are subbed to the channel if you are enjoying it. Trying to get that sub count up so we can keep spreading the channel's influence, getting bigger and bigger, and hopefully, you know, getting some more people educated on what's going on here. And hit that like button if you're enjoying these videos. Alright, so puncture damage. Why am I complaining about puncture damage right now? Well, first off, compared to slash damage, which does a damage over time that bypasses armor, puncture damage just doesn't really cut it. So what the proc of puncture damage does, and it's actually kind of underwhelming right now, to be honest, in the grand scheme of the meta of the game, and here it is straight from the wiki. So, the stats effect of puncture is called weakened. It causes the enemy's attacks to do 30% less damage over 6 seconds. Subsequent procs add 5% reduced damage up to 75% damage reduction after 10 stacks, which each proc having its own duration. So it basically just makes the enemies deal less damage to you. Or I guess if you were puncture proc, you would deal less damage to the enemies as well. And the way that the game really works out most of the time is, first off, you're not even trying to go for puncture procs in the first place. And survivability is not really what we're trying to go for when we're using a weapons procs here. The damage type of puncture does bypass enemies' armor slightly, and it does have a good multiplier against some armored enemies, but overall, it's just not cutting it. And if they were to make puncture damage good, it would make so many weapons actually like worth considering. One of those the biggest ones is the Boltor Prime. This thing used to be one of the best guns in the game way back in the day, basically when I started playing. As you can see right here, it's got 41 puncture damage and 4.6 impact damage, with a very high status chance. So you see lots of puncture procs when you're using this gun. Unfortunately, like I said, puncture procs are just going to make you more tanky, basically. They're not going to do anything to make you do more damage to enemies. They're not going to, do some cool effect where, because it will pin enemies to walls, but that doesn't really have any actual applications. Like, enemy flying back, I think it does some damage usually. Let's just spawn these guys at level 5 so I can show the puncture thing I'm talking about. So, they fly through. It didn't really do anything there. That is really cool thematically. And when you start playing this game, you're like, oh, that was really cool. Like, do all the bows do that? Does the Boltor always do that? Yes, it does do that, but it has no real purpose. So maybe making that actually do something useful could be a good place to start. But I think it's actually a lot simpler than that. And that's actually going to be going over what puncture damage is like in Railjack. Remember Railjack? Well, the convoluted damage system in Railjack actually changes your puncture damage on your weapons to plasma damage while you're in space. So let's read what the puncture damage does in space from the wiki here as well. Thank you, wiki providers, for making these nice posts. The Empyrean game mode changes puncture to plasma. It's a status effect which will cause decompress, reducing the target ship's shield and armor by 20 seconds, with subsequent procs stacking additively. Against the Tenno's Railjack, it creates a hull rupture, which reduces the ship's max health by 5%. So, I think it's easy enough right there. So, going over lots of suggestions and ideas that people have had. So what we could do is you could just change puncture damage to just what it does in Railjack. It reduces enemies' armor and health by a certain amount. Don't make it too OP. But I really feel like with weapons, we should have a way to fully remove enemy armor. Because if you didn't know this, corrosive and heat go off of the enemy's remaining armor. There is no way to fully strip enemy armor by using corrosive and heat elementals. Maybe if we made it where corrosive, heat, and puncture all combined together, that could make it where the enemy has no armor left. As you can see right there, the Boltor Prime is not really doing much, although this is not really a great build. I have no ribbon or anything like that. 10 puncture procs, that's doing nothing for our damage at all. The viral and the heat is doing good, of course. But yeah, I'd say, so make it where enemy armor and shields is getting reduced per puncture proc on the enemy. And then at 10 puncture procs, create a weak point on the enemy in maybe either a random spot or where you've been shooting at the most. Shooting at the spot you're shooting at the most might be like a little bit hard code-wise for them to do and just more complicated. So make it like when you have 10 puncture procs on the enemy, a random spot on their body becomes a weak point where if you hit them, you do increase critical damage or something like that. So not only is it going to be opening a new gameplay thing where it's like, okay, I got them with 10 puncture procs, now I'm going to start shooting them in the leg, and it's going to be like a bunch of extra damage, but it's also going to make puncture something you're worth considering for a full armor strip loadout. Now this is just one idea. Of course, there's many things. I just thought that would be easy because it's basically already in Railjack. The whole rupture thing is basically what I was thinking with the weak point. So if you think about it, if they made puncture damage good, how many weapons would become actually worth considering now in this game? And the answer is a lot of weapons would become really worth considering. It would shake up at least the gun meta and the gun choices a lot. So let's just take a quick look at a couple of them here. The Tonkor has puncture on the impact, the grenade. That wouldn't really matter at all. Neither would that. So they've actually made a lot of weapons have either impact or slash as their main element or their main damage type. So it wouldn't change some of these weapons, but it would definitely let some of them elevate up a little bit here. So as you can see right here, the Exceltra, it has a lot of puncture damage on the explosion of the rockets. That would be a nice Exceltra buff. A lot of people complain the Exceltra, not complain. A lot of people say the Exceltra does not really scale to high levels very well. There you go, perfect. You make a corrosive heat Exceltra build with a built-in puncture. You will be, if you're spraying enough rockets, you're going to be fully removing enemy armor. It will scale up a lot higher. Some other stuff. I mean, the Astilla has forced impact. We'll do a video on impact in the future, but the Astilla has some good. It's mostly slash, to be fair. There's plenty of weapons that have puncture built in that are not really worth considering at all. Here's one right now, the Baza Prime. You usually have to rely on hunter munitions on this thing. If you do, and here's the thing as well, it would make viral builds good as well, because if you had a viral hunter munitions Baza build, if maybe you don't kill him in 4 bullets, after 4 puncture procs, potentially, because it has high puncture damage, your shots are doing more damage, even if the hunter munitions is not proccing. So it does seem like a pretty good idea. It would definitely make the Boltor Prime a lot more interesting for sure. A corrosive heat Boltor build, because I mean the main meta people go for on builds nowadays is viral and heat, because that gives you multiplicative damage, and the heat will reduce their armor as well. So yeah, it would make those builds more interesting. It would make corrosive heat more of a contender with viral heat, and maybe some other stuff could get combined as well. If it would reduce enemy shields, I mean, Toxin would still bypass them, to be honest, but you could at least consider maybe like a magnetic puncture build for maybe Corpus Liches. That would be good for reducing their armor and for reducing their shield, because they'll probably have both, right? So a lot of weapons would actually be a lot more cool and worth. The Daikyu. Let's say the Daikyu has very high stash chance, extremely high puncture. You get enough stash chance on there, you're going to get like 3 puncture procs from 1 arrow. There might be some situation where you could get like a bunch of like 10 puncture procs from 1 shot, and after that, the weak points on there, the Daikyu is going to annihilate. So yeah, and even melees. Like I know, like I said, puncture does bypass enemy armor partially, and that can be good for things like the Telos Boltes. We have a video on the Telos Boltes, mostly focused on PvP. But the reason this thing is actually pretty good is because the stance for the Tonfas has 4 slash procs on Sovereign Outcast. So that's partially why it can actually hang pretty well. But if the puncture was actually doing some debuffing as well, because the thing is, for elemental or for status types in this game or status procs, they need to either debuff or do something really cool if they're going to ever compete with slash, with heat, with toxin, all that kind of stuff. It needs to be something worth considering. And I just think the meta of the game and choices of the weapons in this game get elevated a lot more, because you usually are just using puncture for the minor bypass of armor, and just because weapons, you're forced to run it basically. Like a lot of these weapons have a lot of puncture on them. Like for example, the Plague Cryptbath has a bunch of puncture on it. And most of the meta weapons actually have a bunch of slash. Like the Bala Dagger, actually, this thing has 4 slash procs on the stances, 4 slash procs on the heavy attacks. So that's partially why the high puncture is okay. And like I said, if you have high puncture on here, that is going to let you bypass some armor when getting those slash procs and all that stuff. So hopefully you found this video interesting and helpful, guys. Like I said, we'll do an impact video soon. And I really feel like it doesn't need to be overcomplicated. If making a weak point in the enemy is too complicated, then just make it where it's the exact same thing as in Railjack. Reducing enemy armor, reducing enemy shields, make it so it works well with corrosive and heat, so we can fully strip enemy armor. Because I do miss just turning a Grenier's health bar red without having to use what was it called? Seeking Shuriken, like armor reducing abilities. A lot of people they're like, I just came back to the game. Can you still fully reduce enemy armor with corrosive? No, you can't. And I think they should change that back personally. They reduced enemy armor across the board, and you don't even need armor strip for high levels. But I mean, you don't even need full viral at full levels. It's just a fun feature that could potentially make the game more interesting. All right, guys, I'll talk to you next time. Take it easy and peace.